Hi, brain retrainers. My name is Teresa. I make videos on brain retraining and limbic system healing and holistic health in general, especially for people struggling with chronic pain and chronic illness. Today, I wanted to tackle a topic that I think is a little controversial in the brain retraining community, and I think it comes up the longer that you've been using these tools and techniques. So, while the title of the video might seem a little negative, it's not meant to be. It's just a question I think I've asked myself. A lot of people have asked themselves, is brain retraining making me sicker? Can it be masking symptoms? Can it fail? And I think it's a really complex issue. So I'm going to give an example that I have been running into recently. And I'll kind of give a brief timeline as well. So there is going to be some symptom talk in this video. And I know that some people in certain brain retraining programs that tend to be a little bit more militant about the types of talk that are allowed. Some of them are very strict about no symptom talk, no symptom researching. And I do think that for some people, it's very healthy to have that mindset and that approach, especially if you've noticed that maybe some health anxiety has creeped in, that maybe some obsessive or compulsive thoughts or behaviors have creeped in around health, and that might be a huge part of your healing. So if so, this might not be the best video for you at this point in your healing. But if you have been doing brain retraining and you're still noticing residual symptoms, if you have been doing brain retraining or you are doing brain retraining and you have other health issues that still do need to be addressed medically, and you do still have to keep track of symptoms and be aware of symptoms, this is a good video for you to watch. So what's interesting about my healing journey, I've been doing brain retraining for quite some time. I've been sick for a very long time. I have a lot of chronic health conditions with, autoimmunity, with Lyme, with Epstein-Barr, with chronic fatigue, POTS, so many different things. There's a lot. And again, I don't like to get bogged down in symptoms. And that's why brain retraining was so appealing to me in my journey. Is I thought, wow, this is so neat that I can reframe the way that I think and I believe about myself, my life, my symptoms, my diagnoses, and I can rewire my brain to live a more free and fulfilling life, and to say, I'm going to go out and do that despite my symptoms. I'm still going to go and enjoy things. And I think that's what's so beautiful about brain retraining for so many people. The understanding that your nervous system, that parasympathetic and that autonomic nervous system, and dysregulation within that system, getting locked into kind of a fight or flight trauma and survival mode, is root cause for a lot of mystery and chronic illnesses, for a lot of post-viral syndromes, for a lot of fatigue syndromes and pain syndromes. The root cause for some people is purely within their nervous system. Even for things like Lyme and mold illness, there is a huge component of our nervous system being one of the underlying and very integral pieces of the puzzle when we're solving reactivity with MCAS, with things like that. So there's a two-part process though, right? So I've talked about this in other videos and in my program, where we are doing brain retraining, for example, someone healing multiple chemical sensitivity or mold sensitivity or electromagnetic sensitivity. We're doing the brain retraining. We're finding these amazing episodes of progress where people can now be around artificial fragrances or be next to a cell phone or be in a semi-moldy environment and not have reactivity. But it doesn't inherently change the fact that those toxins in our environment still are not good for us, and that we want to be very careful that we're not almost like gaslighting ourselves into thinking, oh, well, it's fine. I'm fine now. I'm not reactive anymore. Let me go right back into super toxic environments or eating a super toxic standard American diet. And again, I know there are some brain retraining programs out there that are like, once you do this, you can live your life however you want. You can throw on those artificial fragrances and eat that junk food and go wherever. And I guess for some people that might work for them. But what I've noticed for myself and for many others is to take a more holistic approach where brain retraining is a piece of that puzzle and a piece of our healing, but to also know that it's a tool. It's not the entire need being met at once. So if I'm doing brain retraining and now I'm less reactive to different smells and chemicals and environments, I still am probably going to want to keep a non-toxic home, because now on my journey I've learned about the dangers of like plug-in air fresheners, or I've learned about the dangers of not checking my home for mold or cleaning my air filters, or whatever it is. Those are just logical, healthy things we should be doing for ourselves and our family. The good news is that by doing brain retraining, now I'm able to go into a doctor's office that might have a plug-in, or stay at a hotel that uses toxic cleaners, because I can use my skills to not be reactive for that time. My limbic system is trained to know that it's not a life or death situation. So I'm able to enjoy my time and push through when I need to push through reactivity. But it's not this end all be all cure that now I can just walk around and I should be just walking through these environments and living in these environments that are exposing me to toxins again. So that's my belief on it. That's a lot of functional doctors' beliefs on it. But another example I wanted to give, and it's a more personal example, is going to the doctor recently, checking in on some things, my functional medicine provider, and just saying, yeah, it's so weird. I still have some of these lingering symptoms. I've been really kind of pushing through and doing a lot. I do brain retraining. I don't really have my MCAS symptoms anymore. I don't really have my POT symptoms anymore. My energy is better. It's not amazing, but really good improvements the last few years, especially after integrating brain retraining, that I've never had this kind of progress before. I don't have eczema anymore. I don't have these crazy reactions just being around smells. I went into a house with air fresheners the other day. I was totally fine. But I was like, it's so weird though, because I started taking some of these herbal supplements again that are supposed to help with getting some Lyme and Epstein-Barr stuff under control, because the last time my blood work was done, those levels were still crazy high. And I was like, and I had all these crazy reaction symptoms to it. And basically she looked at me and was like, just because you're feeling good and this protocol and this routine and this brain retraining is working for you, doesn't mean that those pathogens aren't still in your body. Like if you still have an active infection of bacteria, virus, parasites, autoimmunity, whatever the issue is, brain retraining can make you feel awesome, and that's a great thing. But we don't want to live, I guess I was kind of doing this, we don't want to kind of live in this denial state of, well, I'm using brain retraining and I feel great, so I don't have to worry about other stuff anymore at all. Because sometimes you then get to the point like I was, where I went back for a check-in and my Lyme levels and my EBV levels and my autoimmune markers are like out of control again. And I'm like, oh, it's not that I wasn't doing enough brain retraining or I wasn't doing it correctly anymore, or I had fallen off the wagon. It's I was doing it almost so well that I thought I was better, and I fell off the wagon with treating my other health issues that are still real health issues. So that kind of got me thinking, like, is this happening with other people? Could there be a darker side to brain retraining, or a dangerous side to brain retraining that we don't talk about a lot, that you don't necessarily experience until you've been doing it for a while? And just like with any intervention medically, I think sometimes we think, well, brain retraining, it's non-pharmaceutical. We're not using anything to alter our body's chemistry, so there can be no side effects. Well, I always say as a therapist, even with meditation, like there can be side effects, even for something that doesn't seem like there would be. So with brain retraining, I guess my theory is, could we be masking or ignoring symptoms or pushing them away out of our awareness? Or could we be making our limbic system so much healthier that we feel so much better that we ignore and push through things? Or we put ourselves back in toxic environments to the point where underlying, low key, we could be making ourselves worse. And I don't think this is something that always happens. I just think it's something maybe we need to be more aware of, that this could be a possible side effect or risk of brain retraining. So an example I give as a therapist is, a lot of people are like, wow, meditation's supposed to be so good. I wish I could do meditation, but wow, it makes me feel so bad, or I just can't do it. And I always bring out this polyvagal awareness chart. There's a couple good ones. Deb Dana has a good one. Babette Rothschild has a good one. And what it talks about is, it's not just fight or flight mode or rest and digest mode. There's also what we know to be kind of this social engagement piece in the middle, where we want to be in between the two so that we can be activated enough to be socially engaged, but calm enough to not be panicky. But when you get past the point of fight or flight, you actually get into this hypo freeze or hyper freeze mode, where you're so activated and there's so much adrenaline and you're so agitated that you look frozen, but physiologically you're having this fight or flight like adrenaline dump, and that can lead to almost like going into shock for some people, or just being very, very dysregulated. And below this point of, we get to rest and digest mode, we get to this place where we're super chill with like meditation and mindfulness and just being more relaxed, you can actually go too far in that direction into a point of like lethargy and being really underactivated. And that can look like depression and apathy and just like so low that you look frozen. You're frozen appearing in both, but for very different mechanisms. You're either frozen because you have like no activation and you're too calm, or you're frozen because you're so dysregulated and so agitated and there's so much going on that you just freeze. And that's why for some people, in some situations, meditation actually can make you worse. If you're so low and depressed and just like out of it that you're thinking meditation will help me, meditation is actually pushing you deeper into parasympathetic, and it's going to make you feel worse. It might make your depression worse. You might start to mull over things that you don't want to be thinking about, or it might downregulate you so much that you just feel kind of worse. If you're in this really extreme fight or flight mode to the point that you're frozen, meditation, you can't even fathom doing meditation. You can't access the parts of your brain needed for meditation. And if you try to, you could just be so spun up that you're just going to feel 10 times worse, and it can be dangerous. That's why some of these, silent retreat, Vipassana, 10-day meditation, centers have episodes of people experiencing psychotic episodes from doing these retreats. If you're not in the right state to practice meditation, even though it's non-pharmacological, it's not what anyone would consider a dangerous intervention, if you're not in the right limbic system state or mind state, it can be dangerous potentially, or it can just be ineffective. Or we can become so attached to thinking meditation cures everything that when it doesn't work for us, we think there's something wrong with us. Really, we just might not be in the right state to use it in that moment. We need to bring ourselves down, and we might need to use somatic exercises of like being outside, moving around, exercising, moving our bodies to disperse the adrenaline when we're in an extreme agitated state, to get ourselves to the point that we can even do higher level skills. So I think it's the same with brain retraining. So I was kind of writing down some ideas here. So, brain retraining definitely 100%. I'm still a huge believer that it does improve our health and our well-being. It changes our neural pathways. We break free from negative thought patterns. We rebuild positive ones. We undo the damage that chronic illness, over-identifying with symptom checking, obsessive compulsive thinking, health anxiety, all of these things, we break free from them. But we want to make sure that we are using it in conjunction with other approaches. So when we do brain retraining, but we're interested in like neurofeedback, we're interested in how cognitive behavior therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy play in. We're using mindfulness, we're using nature, we're using maybe herbalism, we're coordinating with our doctors or our functional doctors or whoever we're using, our shaman. I don't really care what you're using as long as you're still addressing the whole body-mind experience. The underlying premise here is we want to change the way our brains process information and then experience relief from our symptoms. However, we want to make sure that instead of being so focused on symptom management, rather than looking for underlying causes, we might be focusing too much on change your thoughts, change your thoughts, change your thoughts. And then kind of by proxy, as part of that, we do start to feel better and it's great. And then we want to pretend like nothing else ever happened. Well, we don't have any other issues. I feel good now. I don't want to think about the other stuff. So instead of delving into the root cause, sometimes this approach could provide some temporary relief and we feel really good because it diverts our attention or alters our perception, which is awesome. I mean, in the moment, sometimes we need that. That's what's so cool about like the placebo effect. That's what's so good with DBT therapy, where we distract. we don't want to be obsessing over symptoms, but we don't want to go so far in the other direction that we're ignoring them altogether and pretending they're not there long term, especially if it's something that, if left unchecked, could get worse. So something that really complicates this, I think, is, this placebo effect. When we experience improvement in our symptoms because we believe in their effectiveness or we feel really good, we kind of aren't sure long term where that leads, or is that just changing our perception? We don't know exactly what part of it it's acting on. So this is where I just think, again, I love brain retraining. I am a huge believer that this can change our lives for the better. But we also have to just be very mindful that brain retraining is focusing on neural pathways, it's focusing on our nervous system, our ability to not live locked into fight or flight mode. And on some level, doing these kind of practices, it can change some of our genetic ability to turn on or off certain genetic influences on our health. Definitely by helping our limbic system, we can calm down inflammation in a lot of ways. We can prevent the escalation of our immune system from leading to autoimmunity, things like that. However, we cannot just say that's all that we have to do. It's just the way I think and the way my limbic system is. We have a very complex body system. And I think that we still need to have room for, biological, psychological, social, immune system, just knowing that there are viruses and pathogens and bacteria and whatever else is out there. We still need to be aware of that in our body and the role that that can play. Even if we're feeling good mentally, we still need to be addressing the physical. So I don't know, I wanted to just say this. I know it might sound a little different than what a lot of other brain retraining programs say, but I do get a little worried. I get a little worried because I understand these groups and these courses that are like, nope, you are no longer a symptom-focused person. You are not identifying with your illness. Yes, I do like that part. But we need to be careful because some of these groups then become very militant about, no, you are not even allowed to ask that question here. You are not even allowed to mention you have a symptom here. You should not be symptom tracking at all. Okay, I get it. We don't want to still be someone who over-identifies with our illness and just obsesses every minute of the day about our symptoms. We also can't pretend and ignore that there's anything that could be going on in our body that now we're kind of gaslighting ourselves. And what if we're missing something big? What if we're missing an opportunity that, with our limbic system being calm, this might be the perfect time to take that medication, to take that herbal protocol, to do that other treatment that is going to, kill off a pathogen or fix our immune system, because we have now set the stage with brain retraining that our body is receptive to the treatment. I think we need to keep the two together. So I guess finding the right balance is a little bit tricky. So what I'm thinking we need to focus the most on is just continuing to consult with your healthcare professionals. Now, I do think it's important to have someone that understands the limbic system, understands holistic perspectives, because straight up Western medicine just doesn't understand what we're trying to accomplish here with brain retraining, but someone who understands both sides. They understand the physical and they understand the mental and the spiritual. We do still have to educate ourselves about our condition. We no longer want to obsess over how sick we are and just constant symptom checking, but we do want to make sure that we understand this physiological and the psychological aspects of our illness and of our health so that we can make informed choices. So for example, with something like Lyme disease or Epstein-Barr or lupus or POTS, we want to say, wow, I understand that there are some pathogens that still need to be eradicated. I understand that I need to support my liver as I work to detox things from my body. I also get that I have been in such a good headspace and my energy is better and I feel better. This is probably the perfect time to do interventions that before I would have felt too sick to even attempt, or I would have just felt too burnt out to even try, or my body probably wouldn't have been receptive to them. Now my inflammation's down, I feel good. What a good time to now implement other forms of treatment. We want to have open communication with our healthcare providers or whoever else we're, working with. We want to have realistic expectations. Brain retraining, I really don't think is a cure-all. I think for some people it can be. If someone has been locked in chronic fight or flight mode because of trauma and they do brain retraining and their limbic system feels better, it might cure most of their issues. However, even for myself, I think at that point it opens the door that now you can go and do trauma therapy and still unlock further root causes. I think that brain retraining is an awesome conjunction therapy. I don't think it should be standalone. And I'm not sure if I'm the only one that thinks this way, but I've seen a lot of programs that seem like, no, this is all you ever need, never do anything else. And I think that's where it gets a little dangerous. It's kind of like this cult mindset, and I'm worried about the extremism I'm seeing in the brain retraining community. So we need to just be realistic and know the potential benefits and limitations of brain retraining and how we need to work in conjunction with other practices. We still want to, incorporate balanced routine. We can do our mindfulness and our meditation and our yoga and our time in nature. We want to have healthy healing practices, and we want to recognize that brain retraining makes us feel good enough that we can engage in things that otherwise we couldn't, and it's only going to help our healing. We want to track our progress without obsession. So if we have a symptom tracker journal, we want to keep notes of how we're feeling but not obsess over it. Maybe we just set aside 5 minutes every night to write down our symptoms for the day and then leave it there. We don't go deeper. And we want to just regularly reassess and readjust. So we want to look at the effectiveness of our combined approach. We want to check in with our limbic system, use our brain retraining to gauge where we feel mentally and physically. And the most important thing is practicing self-compassion. We want to embrace this compassionate attitude to ourselves throughout our journey, having patience for ourselves and our body, just holding space for how difficult this can be, the trauma that is inherent in a lot of our healing journeys, and knowing that our progress can come in all stages. We're going to have setbacks, we're going to have, times where we feel really good and then we kind of go back down, and just being kind to ourselves as we navigate all of these complexities. So I hope this video made sense to some of you. I know it's kind of a different way of talking about things, but I really, really hope that this opens up more dialogue on how you have used brain retraining as a part of your healing. If you had a time in your life where you tried to put all your eggs in that one basket and what happened, and what you think about some of these programs that think it is the only way, and if we think that is a healthy mindset or not. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments, and I hope you guys have an awesome week just full of healing and love.